Good day, and welcome to Travel with Us a while. Sometimes you meet someone whose story resonates deeply, even before you've even spoken to them. This was certainly the case for today's guest, Emma Lovell. Emma first came onto my radar when I read her book, The Art of Leisure, the idea of blending business, travel, adventure, and life into something richer and more meaningful. As I turned the pages, I found myself nodding along, recognizing the philosophy that felt very familiar. Like many of us, Emma's journey hasn't been a straight line. Life has thrown challenges, heartbreak, unexpected turns, and opportunities her way. Yet rather than allowing those experiences to define her limits, she's chosen to embrace possibility, adventure, and a life designed on her own terms. Emma is a speaker, author, entrepreneur, traveler, and someone passionate about helping others create lives with more freedom, purpose, and joy. Her message is beautifully simple. There is an alternate path available to us if we're prepared to step out the unexpected and explore what's possible. Today, we'll be talking about travel, business, resilience, reinvention, and how sometimes life's biggest setbacks can become the catalyst for our greatest adventures. Emma, welcome to Travel with Us a while.
Well, Bron, you're going to make me cry.
I'm working on it.
What a beautiful intro. Thank you so much. I think you could write my new bio. I might just take that as my new bio. It's beautiful. Thank you so much. That's wonderful.
So I don't want this to be a question and answer thing. I know you often have to do those. But we are having a conversation, and the conversation is, why did you decide that you would just keep going after your accident or your problem with your health?
Yeah, so broke my back in 2009. Is that one the one we're referring
Yes,
to? But the broken back, I mean, I just didn't think there was any other way. So, it was funny. I was lying in the hospital bed. It's not funny. It actually was funny. Sometimes me and the guy across from me would laugh and was like, "Don't make me laugh because it
it
hurts."
hurts.
So he was very special. I enjoyed the time with him. But anyway, I was watching on the TV a snowboarding cross. I think it was around the Winter Games. They were preparing for the Winter Games and they were building the snowboard cross. And actually, my friend was living in Canada and he was part of the build for the Vancouver Games. And the nurse came in and she's like, "Didn't you break your back? Like, aren't you here because you were doing that?" And I was like, "Yeah. And why do you think I want to get better? So that I can do it again." And 9 months later, I was back snowboarding. So, I had the benefit of youth on my side. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, not a life-altering injury. Broken back's pretty big, but it
I would
was
think so.
2 vertebrae. I mean, I'd never broken a bone before, so, if you're gonna do it well. But the gift of it was that it gave me the time to slow down. I mean, I've still had to learn that lesson many times over. I think I still, I love.
I still do.
Yes, I love having the book because people now go, "Emma, what would the book say?" Or, "I know this wonderful person who talks about self-care," and I'm like, "Ah." So, we all need that reminder sometimes, and life sometimes just does get a bit hectic, but it was very much the forced break that I needed at that time, and it gave me the permission forevermore to recognize that my health, if you don't stop, your body will, the body will stop you. The body talks.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So from there, just give us I know you've done so many things. You've been to so many different countries. So what I'm really interested in, I think our listeners may be interested in, is how you manage to combine having a young child and still managing to travel and live the lifestyle that you do.
I think it's a little bit like the broken back in that people like to tell you once how things are going to go. So it's like, that woman saying, "You've broken your back, you're not going to snowboard again." And I was like, "No, I'm absolutely going to snowboard again." I remember very vividly and talking to my mother-in-law, but I was talking to her when I was pregnant and she's like, "Oh, well, no more trekking in Nepal." And I was like, that's very specific to call out because I hadn't been trekking in Nepal for at least 2 years, but I guess it's something she remembers from very pivotal from my relationship time with my husband. I have been trekking twice in Nepal, but so what went to the top of the list was, "Matt, we're going to go to Nepal with our baby." And I'm gutted that he's 5 years old and he hasn't been yet. So end of this year, we're going to Nepal and I can't wait
Magic.
to fulfill that
Magic.
dream because I was like, just why not? I think my answer to everything is why not?
Yes.
And sometimes things it might be a little bit more challenging, but I don't know about you, Bron. You have a grandchild who's very similar age to my son. You've had children yourself. I mean, some days at home are very hard.
I would, yes.
Just being in the living room, just that can be really, the most mundane of things can be very challenging. So I don't know, why not chuck in something in a fun location? Why not change up the destination, where you
Absolutely.
expect
I'm
it
with
to
you.
be challenging?
I was fortunate in that when I was a young bride and had even before I had the first child, my husband was a civil engineer. So we were always moving. Every 3 years, we'd go to a different location and usually somewhere completely away from where we'd been before. So we were in 1 minute up in the Drakensberg Mountains in South Africa. And next, we were in Namibia and Swakopmund on the coast. And so it went. So in my 20s, I got into knowing that no matter where you go, you can find something to do with your brain. So my man earned enough money that I didn't have to work, but I have a brain that likes to do things and have a challenge and find out new things. So I went to this town. I was the only of two people who didn't speak German. If the Francoduolingo was German in Swakopmund. And so the lady upstairs in in this old school hostel building that had been turned into flats took me under her wing and taught me how to speak German. But you couldn't get a job unless you could speak German. Fortunately, I met a man who had a mine, and I ended up working for him, which was fascinating. And I'd never worked in that type of thing before, but it was lovely. And so I even worked in a florist. It was you do what it is, and it just keeps your mind active. You meet so many lovely people, and everybody has a story to share.
Yeah, you do what you can, and you do what you need to do, and you do what you want to do. I don't know. That's what I sort of see. And so it was actually the catalyst for the book was somebody saying to me, and I actually interviewed her on my podcast the other day. Her name is Kate Toon. One of her books is on my desk. So she's also an author. And she said to me one day, she just private messaged me and said, honestly, how do you travel the world, run a business, and you have your child? Like, how do you do it? And it just, for once, struck out to me. I'm sure people have said it, but I guess just the way it was phrased and the timing of where I was at, I was like, oh, because Kate also has a child. She also has a business. She also has opportunity to travel. And so I was like, but why is she asking me this? Because she also could do it. So what's different about me to her?
Yes.
And I said to her, it's a very annoying answer, but I think I choose to. It's my
Mm.
choice.
Yes.
And then because I'm so driven by freedom and choice, they're words that keep coming to me at the moment. I don't know if choice is a value, but freedom and choice is what I want. And I guess freedom is choice or whatever. But that's what travel means to me is freedom.
Absolutely.
And, lots of other things, but also means love and connection because it's the time together. And I want that time. And so I'm just so motivated by that I figure everything else out.
Yes.
But I went, "Oh my gosh," on paper, and I've told this to Kate, I'm like, "She's in a far better position, I think, to be doing some of the things that I'm doing." But she isn't. And so sometimes that is your own circumstances or your own choices. I do think a lot of it comes down to choice. I'm talking to a privileged audience, I think, here.
Yes.
But
Yes.
even so, I know people who are in different situations. My beautiful VA is in Philippines, and we have different life circumstances, but she's making choices, and that's what I want to inspire, I guess. And I realize I just choose, and then I just I have to find a way. I have to find an alternative path. I have to make it happen, and that might mean working on 8 different things at once, or I don't know. Yeah, having my son there in the travel, and sometimes it's a bit of chaos, but as I said, so sometimes it's chaos in a lounge room as well.
Absolutely. So, what would you say is your best place that you've been? I mean, people ask me that. I always say, wherever place I'm at the moment and I'm happy.
Yeah.
How do you decipher where you go? And there was another thing I was going to bring up was, remember you were going to take a group out for, oh goodness me, what do you call your escape groups? Pleasure escapes or
Yeah, retreats, yeah.
retreats for one of your retreats? And there was unrest and you had to change to the venue.
Was Nepal. Yeah.
That's right. And I thought to myself, well, you know, in life, forget about if you're doing it as a business, but it's like me. My first husband died, so my circumstances changed. Therefore, you make another plan and continue on. Whereas it just seems to me so many people think you're doing something amazing, but in reality, you're not. All you're doing is making another plan each time.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean it doesn't knock you down a little bit, and I've had a little bit of time recently where I've just felt a little bit tender after, when you keep trying new things and you're making new plans and we say pivoting and evolving, like, it does get a bit tiring at times, and then that's when the rest comes in and you go, "Okay, well, I could just have a little rest from," if and sometimes if you feel like it's a pushing as well. But, yeah, there's always gonna be another way, and, it's just some of those ways might have been a bit more expensive or might have been a bit more upsetting or whatever. But ultimately, there was, yes, a political crisis in Nepal. I knew very quickly I couldn't go there. I didn't want to sit and wait it out.
No.
And I got the recommendation from, the travel authority that it wasn't going to be the right thing to do. So I have to think about the best interest of everyone as well as my own peace and calm and trying to
Absolutely. Yeah.
worry about whether this was going to go ahead or not. And I have attract really beautiful clients who were so gracious. And so to answer your other question, I took them to my favorite place in the world, which is India. So I felt, it must sound mad to other people that it was like, it's easier for me to run a retreat in India than honestly anywhere in the world. And so I felt very comfortable and very confident taking there. It was my 17th visit. I've now been 18 times. So
Goodness,
it
that's
really
amazing.
is
Yeah.
home, like a home to me. And so then I felt, it wasn't easy necessarily, but I did have a very soft landing.
Against the what horrible catastrophic thing that would have happened had you gone, um,
Yeah, or cancelling
taking
everyone, like,
yes, because
that
that's the
certainly
point.
wasn't good either, and just there's lots there was no other way for me than to move it.
Mm,
There was no it was 100% I was running it. I
yes.
just could not be in that place, and so, again, it sounds huge to somebody else being, "Oh my god, you picked up an entire retreat and moved the entire another country," but because the premise and the intention was so strong, which is we were working on our pleasure life and we were working on, that premise of you go somewhere and that inspires you and that makes you remember your goals and your dreams or think about things differently. And so the destination mattered to a degree for some people. They were very fixated on the destination, but the intention of the retreat and what it was going to deliver, it actually didn't really matter about the destination because I knew I could give them that same feeling and
Yes.
transformation and perspective shift in a different place. And that could have been Sri Lanka, that could have been Bhutan, it could have been Thailand. I just have a wonderful business partner and structure where I work with India. So it was really easy to do that. And I could get a similar vibe because there's some places in India that have a similar, not the same, feeling. So I took them. I knew exactly where I was going to take them, which was Durham.
Yeah, and having been there before, that you knew about these things, which probably made the change easier for you. And
Absolutely.
yeah, so do you ever go just your family? I know you go to America because we have to share your cousin. He's amazing. I've been reading his book, and I'm so glad you wrote that. It's just really moving. Would you tell
Thank
us a little bit about that?
Yes, so I've written 2 books now. My second book, sort of came in a bit of I just get an urgency, and you've written a book, Bron, I just get all of a sudden an urgency that this book has to come. I wanted to write books for a long time. I really thought my next book would be about retreats because that is something primary in my business. It's something I'm an expert in, and I do think it would be very helpful to create a book about how to host these profitable retreats. But then I realized my relative, Bill, he's my first cousin once removed. He's my grandmother's cousin. He's 102, and now he's 103. When I started writing the book, he's 102, and I thought, "This just can't wait," like, because, he's been amazing. We've probably had him 16 years longer than I thought we would. He had a lung removed at 86, so it's kind of he was like, "I'm slowing
Yes,
down."
thank goodness.
Half a lung, but, you know, significant at 86 for most people.
Yes.
But here he is, 103, we're having a book launch for 200 people. We've sold nearly 500 copies. So this is the story of his life. He is a World War II veteran, Navy veteran, and a magician. So the book is called A Life of Magic.
Well, the bit I just was so moved when he was in hospital during the war, actually in Australia.
Yes.
And, somebody visited him and showed him how to do magic and how it's transformed his life. It's just been and how giving he is with it. You obviously are related.
Oh, he's so generous. I mean, yes, I think we connect so much. So we should be very distant because of, in relation we're distant and in geography we're distant. He's in Chicago, near Chicago in the USA, and I'm in the Gold Coast in Australia. But he has come out to Australia to visit us twice, and he came when I was 8 years old, and obviously, this magical man appearing in our home, and everyone falls in love with him. But we did form a special connection, and it was when I went when I was 21. The year I broke my back. So before I broke my back, I went and spent a month, a couple weeks and another couple weeks. And that time was so precious because I got to know him and we bonded. And then I kept making the effort and going over there and just have built our relationship. And then I actually wrote him in 2009. I actually did make him a book, and that was all stories from his friends because everybody kept telling me, Bron, how amazing he is. And this is the sad part, right? Everyone always talks about how wonderful someone is, and it's usually when they've gone and they'll
Yes.
stand up and say it as a eulogy. Or, I remember at my grandpa's funeral, everyone coming up and telling me what a wonderful man he was. And so people were telling me all these wonderful stories about Bill and how he changed their life and how important he was and how wonderful he was. And I thought, he's never going to hear that. They're telling me, they're not telling him. They might tell him they love him, but they're not going to,
Yes,
or he's not going to hear it.
they won't give him all the details and the reasons why, because he was just is just such a generous person that I don't think he would have thought what he was doing was anything special, because that's just who he was, according from what I pick up in reading the book. And I just think it's just a very, very special thing that you do for him, that he can see, oh my gosh, I actually made a difference, which he has.
Yeah, yeah. So we put it together. It's on the website. So I've got my website, emmalovell.au/a life of magic. So we actually made that into an ebook so people can read the original book of
Yes.
all these lovely stories, but then some of those stories went into this book. And as you know now from reading it, it was something that was important because memoir, in traditional sense, is that you just tell it from first person
Yes.
and you're telling it generally in a chronological order. But the problem is his life isn't necessarily chronological. Some parts are more like chapters, like he went to the Indy 500 and he performed at the Indy 500 as a magician for 50 years. The Indy 500 is the largest spectator sport in the world. It's a motor race in America. It happens every year. And he ended up working there every single year performing for drivers. So that it had to be a chapter because we can't just go, and then I went back to Indy, and then I went back to Indy. Like, also, I felt like it really needed to add the depth. I did include my voice because he is so humble and he is quite matter of fact. And he's such a showman that he tells stories. Some of them are quite short and sharp, which you'll notice because that's how he tells it. He just
Yes.
delivers
Yes.
like an anecdote and he'll tell it from his perspective, which is, and as we were doing the book, and it's even in the book, he says, wow, like I don't know, people kind of know who I am, and I was like, you realize like you're a celebrity to a lot of people. He's like, oh, I know. He said, I know a lot of celebrities. I was like, you're a celebrity. But he couldn't see that. And so the way that I've done it is, that, yeah, there's other voices. And one of the very special voices that's in the book is Steve Belois was the boxer who visited Bill, who taught him magic in
Yes.
1944. And his son, we're still in contact. And he wrote about his now connection with Bill. So, and
Lovely.
to be like, he's like, just, he always thanks him and always credits him. And he's like, he's gone on and done so much more than what his father initially did. But he's so grateful to that man, to Steve, and now to the Belois family and
Yes.
to continue their legacy as well of, their sister, Steve's sister, and they all get to have a piece of that history. And there's a lot of gratitude and a lot of love, but you couldn't get that just from telling it from Bill's perspective. So
No, I can totally get that. And I think that's what's made it such a good read. It was just, just have nearly tears in my eyes on occasion. I thought, yeah, gosh, what a nice man. And so I create photo books, so like photo memory books. And I've been doing this ever since you were able to do it. And I used to be a photographer at 7, so I'm pretty into photographs. And the number of people that we've gone and stayed with or spent a trip with or done something with, and I give them a book as a reminder, who are just blown away by these books. And I make Ken and I one every 6 months for the travels that we do. And then we have somebody come and visit and say, oh, we're going off to Fiji. What are they're not going on a cruise, they're actually sailing like we did. So I take out a book or two from there. I think we were 3 there, so quite a few books. And we'd be going through showing them, and I'd say to Ken, oh my gosh, I'd forgotten about that. So while it's not in words, it's images that with a little story next to it. But yeah,
yeah.
it's so important to keep it alive. Yep.
But even that effort that you make, Bron, not everyone would think to do that. And there's a little bit of effort at the time. And you've just reminded me, I've just written myself a note because I want to make a gift for a friend because I didn't give him a present for his 80th birthday. Because here's the thing, he's a young friend of Cuzzy, right? He's 80. He's been so good to us and so supportive and helpful. But yeah, so, and he's probably seen me make them for Cuzzy, and it's like, I want to do something for him. And not everybody will put their story into a book, but everybody does have a story and everybody does have a history. And to see it given back to you in that way. And I made one for my great uncle. When my great uncle passed, I made one for my great aunt, which was 6 years ago now, but it still sits on the piano in the house. And
Yes.
she loves it. And it's a little bit of effort at the time, but just to look through in that way and to have it curated like that, it's very
Well,
special.
so my mother-in-law, and my partner Ken's mum, is 94. And when she turned 90, I made her a book of her life with photographs. I got all the family to do. So about 60 people came to her party here. We had it at home, so it was really fun and tight because we don't have a big house. And all the people were so invested in telling stories. I can't tell you how photographs bring back memories for people. It's so fantastic. So then we were going away for, I think it was 3 months, 4 months. So I knew she'd have all this big crowd of people and there'd be nobody there because it would be very flat, I thought. So I made her a photo book out of all the people and visitors that had been at her party that had shown her, just to kind of cheer her up. And it arrived about 2 weeks after we had already left. And it's just incredible because she just turned 94. So a whole lot we didn't have such a big shindig, but a whole lot of family members came again. And they were all, oh my goodness, they need a copy. It is a bit of effort, but it doesn't have to be. You can do it in a quick way and make the program do the book for you, but you have to still put the names and things on it like that.
And it's good to do it right after your trip. My mother-in-law is making one from our recent travels. We went on a big family trip, and so she told me at the start, which was great. She said, "Oh, do you always take your photos? You always take videos?" And I said, "I take, photos vertical, I take them horizontal, I take videos. So I'm going to make a book. So could you take screenshots from videos?" And I said, "I can just thank you for telling me, and I can just make sure that I take when I'm taking a video, I also take a photo, and I'll give
Yes,
you what
yes.
I take at the end. Some things are a video, and you just go capture the moment. So I could screenshot if it was a really important one, but." So then at the end of the trip, I sent her obviously I had thousands, so I sent her
We
what
are.
I had, and she's making the book, but another friend does the same. We went to India together, and you've gotta kinda do it right away because, like,
Yes, yes.
here I am looking at my list going, "Oh gosh, that's another book that I said I would
There's,
make," but
there's just a few.
and they're so wonderful, and now with my son, and I'm sure your lovely granddaughter's the same, Finn treats them like storybooks, and so
Yes.
I don't do all the I don't really do the captioning, so
No.
not you, I just do the photos, but then we talk about the photos, and so
Yes.
even he's like, obviously, "And was I there, and was I there?" And these are ones that I did before when I had a little bit more time, but it makes me think I really could be doing and I might just do it we do a lot of trips, so I might do an annual our trips from the year one as opposed to a book for every trip because I might end up with a lot, so
Yeah.
but,
Well,
but
for sure.
motivated by him, right? And
So
it doesn't have
what
to be
I
all the photos, I think that's the other thing. I get a bit
Yes,
too like
exactly. And it doesn't have to be the best ones. It needs to be the one that remembers because we're not in a photographic competition here. So
yeah.
what I've done for my 5-year-old granddaughter is I did her first 6 months, and then I did a book for her with a ABC, and I put all the people that are with their names or things that she likes to do in that. And they're little small ones, A5 size. Oh no, that's too big anyway. Half of an A.
Yes.
And then I started doing her African stories because I wanted her to know a bit of my heritage and a lot of the African tales about how the elephant got a long trunk and all these sort of things. And I managed to find photos and stories. And then I started doing ones of when we've had Christmas together or whatever. And it's like she's waiting for them. And I've got so quick at it because I sort of have this template that I just get the photos, put it in, a couple of little messages, and some days she just sits there and goes through all of them. So it's rather fun.
It's beautiful, and it's a future book actually, Bron, that I have an idea for, which is it's in the art of pleasure, and it's still kind of ruminating on how it comes out, but it's basically that we can travel through our memories. And
Yes.
sometimes Finn will sort of say to me, "Can we go there?" And I say, "Yeah, of course we can. Like, can we go there?" Like, we have a screensaver on the TV, and it's all different places. It's, "Oh, I've been there," or "Can we go there?" And obviously, my answer is always yes. Yeah. There are times in life, and I put it in my book, that it's not possible to travel. We obviously all had COVID where we couldn't go very far. And then sometimes finances, sometimes health, but there are ways to, and one of those ways is to go through memories or to
Yes.
travel through pictures. And so that's why we love books and we love movies, and you can kind of get joy and inspiration. But if you've had that benefit of traveling, then it's like, what a gift to have reflective joy of we go back through those photos and watch those videos and get to talk about those experiences and it's reliving it. And so that's just sort of one of the ways, but it's kind of a pleasure for kids book. And I've got to
Yes.
try to figure
Yes.
out how the
I
It's
like
gotta
that.
be a benefit to the parent and to the child or the reader and the child, but also just the narrative structure. But that's certainly that really was the bit that sparked it because Finn said something when he was so small. He was like 2 or something, and he was like something was cold, and then he's like, "Snow," and then he's like, "Papa," and we built the snowman. And he remembered being in America, from being cold to associating with snow to remembering that we built a snowman with my dad in America on a ski holiday. And I'm like,
Oh, fabulous.
those memories, the travel memory could also be at the beach down the road from us. Like, not to say that you have to go and do this big thing, but the
Exactly,
fact that that
exactly.
was imprinted in him, and then that we got to have a conversation about it and so much joy in that moment from something we did ages ago. So that was what sparked the kinda traveling through memory.
That's so true because my mother was a professional photographer. She had her own studio. She would take photographs all the time, and I learned how to develop and print at a young age, which got me one of my paid to play jobs. I ended up being mine photographer for De Beers diamond mine in Namibia, simply because I could develop and print black and white photos. But it went on for there, and I stayed for about 3-4 years. The photographs and the photo albums that she made are what have reminded me of the things that we did. So we used to go every single weekend somewhere. We would be fishing, camping, going up a mountain, going in a cave, bushwalking, whatever. We were just always doing things, and there was a photograph to remember it. I can't try and at the moment, everybody puts everything on the internet, but they don't keep it for themselves. And so one day the internet's going to be overloaded and it'll be lost, or you have to sort of cut down on how many you have. Whereas if you make a physical book, you've got something that's going to last at least your lifetime. So I really encourage people to do that. So good on you. You get your book out, and between us, we'll enthuse the world. Emma, it's been absolutely fabulous having you. I just was wondering, is there anything that you'd like to give as advice for people who want to travel or have a dream and want to do it, when they can?
Well, I just think it's the stop waiting for one day or someday. Like, you have to talk it into existence.
Yes.
Not just talk, but take action into existence because there's always gonna be a something. There's always gonna be a reason why you can't. Now people are saying the war, and I was like, I'm sorry, but there have actually been wars going on constantly. This one is just a bit more inconvenient to you.
I had civil war when I was a kid in my country.
Absolutely, but people say the war. I was like, it's not the war, it's a war because, there just have been and it's terrible. It's just, as I say, it's a bit more inconvenient, but that becomes another reason to not be able to do things. I'm not denying things are happening, and I'm not denying your
Absolutely not.
safety,
And I'm not
but
making light of the war that I grew up
no,
in.
but
Absolutely not.
people do, they'll find that and then they'll go, "Well, we can't." And, while we were going to Mexico this year and there was the drug cartels had a big thing in the town that we were going to. But it happened 2 months before, and by the time we got there, absolutely fine. And, we were on a cruise and I was just like, I just trust that they're going to not take us into a place that is unsafe. And we just held steady where we could have just heard that news and gone ahead. And people they just rush out and cancel things. And so I think there's such a joy from anticipation. So there's such
A
a
word.
joy from planning something. And so you have this little joy of this thing that you want to do one day or someday. We'll start taking action to make it happen. And right now, we're actually planning to, and we will, we're going to go live in India for 4 months. So
Fabulous.
you're probably one of the first people I'm announcing it to, Bron. I will do a bit more of an announcement. We need to talk to the parents first to make sure they know. And we're just FYI. So when you see it, that's what's
Yep.
happening.
Yeah.
But do I have the plan yet? No. Do I have all the pieces in a row? No. Do I have all the money in the bank? No. But if I don't set a date, I won't. And even when talking to my husband about it, I said, "Look, maybe we need a little bit more time. Maybe next year's better." And I started to kind of
Back
go
away.
relax and go to plan B. And he said, "That sure, fine. We know plan B." And this is not very him. He's usually I would think he would err on that because I think you need the goal. I think you need the deadline. And so we've set it as October this year. And we're gonna go full, ahead with that. And then I think as I talk about it more, it's getting steam, it's getting momentum, it's getting
Yes.
inspiration, or someone goes, "Oh, well, if you're going to India at that time, well, I might come with you." Or, "Oh, I'd always wanted to go. Tell me about that when you get back and I'll plan my thing." And I do happen to have a business over there where I partner with a travel company. So it is a business-oriented trip. It's also a
And why
connection,
not?
inspiration.
All you're doing is taking advantage of the things you've created and
Yes.
making more. And I mean, this is what we get given these gifts. You have to work with them and use them to your full ability.
Yes, but if and I think Miley Cyrus talked about it recently, and she said Dolly Parton had told her, and I have a book here by Dolly Parton, she's amazing, but just I knew this concept, but I loved the way that she talked about it, which was talk it into existence, and there's recently been the Hannah Montana 20-year anniversary special. Well, that didn't exist. Miley Cyrus talked about it so much that somebody started to be like, well, I guess we better do this thing. And they created it because she talked about it. And so I'm talking about India and saying we're going to do it. And then people are going to just believe that. I believe it. They'll believe it. And then it's like, well, we better make it happen because I talked about it. And things will fall into place. One of the things is to get our place subletted. Well, if people don't know we're going to be away, they don't know that they can use our place.
And they need to have a plan and time to do that. So you have to begin making your plan.
Yeah. And I just think that talk it into existence and then take action. And otherwise, one day, someday, what is one day? 10 years, 5 years? One day is today. One day
Yep.
is tomorrow.
Yep.
One day is now. So kind of stop putting it off. And my message, yes, is stop waiting for one day or someday and live your life live a life that you love now.
Yep. My motto is one life, live it well.
And this is why we're here, Bron, because we are like-minded. And I think you're absolutely doing it.
Thank you for traveling with us a while today. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd love it if you would subscribe to the Travel With Us a While podcast and leave a review. Leaving a review helps more travelers, dreamers, and storytellers to discover these wonderful conversations. To see photos and learn more about today's guest and the journeys, visit the Travel With Us a While blog, where you will find images and stories that bring each episode to life. And if you have a travel story of your own to share, whether it's an epic voyage across oceans, a memorable road trip, a camping adventure, or a journey that changed your life, I'd love to hear from you. Every traveler has a story, and yours may inspire someone else to take that first step towards their own adventure. Until next time, wherever you are in the world, may your travels be rich with experiences, your path be filled with discovery, and your stories become worth sharing. I'm Bron from Travel With Us a While. So thank you for traveling with us a while today.